Welcome everybody to another episode. Today we are here at the Swiss headquarters of HelloFresh. I have the big honor to introduce you to Daniel Walter, the managing director here in Switzerland of HelloFresh.
Hi guys.
Welcome everybody to another episode. As usual on the Startup Show, I would like to give the first 2 minutes to our guest on the show. So please, Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Cedric. I grew up just around here, about 20 kilometers from Zurich. And when I finished college, I was going to decide where I want to study, and was between technical studies here at the great university in Zurich at the ETH. But finally I ended up going to Geneva because I was really interested in international affairs, politics, economics, and what could be a better place in Geneva. I was always very keen to make a difference in some form or shape, as most people are when they're young. Mine was thinking I'd probably go to diplomacy. That's where you shape most, United Nations, that kind of stuff. So I went there, I started studying, and it is a great place to get to know all these UN agencies and this whole world of international affairs. We had our little student NGO there that we ran for a couple of years. We were organizing Model United Nations simulations, study trips to Palestine, New York, to many different places, roundtables, all that kind of thing, always in the hope that we can impact something in a positive way to shape the future. Sadly, I discovered that it's very, very hard to do that in a constellation of the United Nations, being very bureaucratic, very political, very slow, and you end up feeling it's all about writing reports that some people read, but not too many people read, and it's about the politics in the end and not the content. And that was quite frustrating. I know a lot of my friends found sort of their niche in that whole world with some specialized agency or other. I didn't. I went into management consulting, which is quite a twist, but I felt it's now or never. I got a good offer, and I thought it would be a good career starter, because I also noticed you can actually do good stuff in diplomacy and in international affairs, but it's very hard to have a career. Basically, you start as an unpaid intern for 2 years and 3 years, and then there might still not be a job and no professional development, no coaching, no anything. So I decided I'd at least do that and ramp up my professional skills, and then I can still decide to go back or not. But basically, the intention stayed with me that there's something I wanna shape. I wanna have a positive impact on, and for me, HelloFresh, what I'm doing now is one of these outlets. In many ways and shapes, and I think we'll get more into detail about that a bit later.
Yes.
So that's one part of me, how I got to be here. Another part of me is I love kite surfing. In fact, I just came back from Zanzibar. I was in Zanzibar 1.5 weeks ago. So such great fun, such a good way to explore the world, because you're kind of forced to go to nice places.
Yeah.
You have to have a nice beach and wind for kite surfing. So it's perfect for me, and it's one of my big passions, I'd say.
So tell me, you made that shift from, let's say, the office job as a consultant to kind of a big startup. What are like the key differences that you can pinpoint?
It's full of differences. First of all, I would probably not call it an office job, but you spend a lot of time on planes and hotels. But what's worse, when you actually work at a client site, usually they have some spare room in the basement with no windows. That's basically where you work. So one thing is certainly the atmosphere is very different. We have a great office here. I love being here. But then there's so many other things, Consulting, the whole company is full of people that are motivated and clearly talented. And now moving to this kind of environment where I am now, it's the first time in my life that I actually worked on a daily basis with people that have very different backgrounds in terms of education, salary level, motivation as well, focus. sort of, I'm used to people who travel the world and have hobbies and passions, and once you actually get down to the nitty-gritty, you work with different sorts of people. You know, we work with logistics. There's a postman delivering our packages, and you have to find a way to communicate with the postman and give him instructions and make sure he understands. And it's a completely different reality, and I think that's a major shift that you really have to be aware of. It's not about you explain a bit the environment where you want to go, and then you send the people off. They don't understand. You have to be very specific and write stuff down and do coaching on a very different level. I think that's the biggest shift.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's not hold everyone back from knowing like what kind of startup you're involved with today. So
our mission is to make it easier to cook well, to eat well by cooking well. That means what we do is we develop recipes every week, fresh recipes, tasty recipes, healthy recipes. Then we go and buy all the ingredients, and they're already perfectly portioned for whatever you need. So if you have a recipe that needs, I don't know, 2 grams of chili in the recipe, we send it to you as a 2-gram package. Mm-hmm. And you're just set to cook. You open the box, you have all the ingredients for 3 recipes, you have the recipes with them, and you're just set to go. That's supposed to make it much easier for you to cook and to eat well. Mm-hmm. Because it's fresh, you prepare it yourself. It's also a bit of a, how would you say, it helps you against stressful daily work life, because you actually do stuff with your hands, and you're not just order food and see it comes out, but you're actually part of the whole process, and it's a very healthy thing to get that kind of balance when you go back home. So that's why I refer to the mission statement. It's all about making it easy for people to cook well, to get access to fresh ingredients, and to get to know new recipes, this first time in my life I actually made a Wiener Schnitzel myself. Where you take the meat, you beat it until it's flat, and you put it in the, I don't know how to call it, Paniermehl, right? You do a Wiener Schnitzel yourself. It's really easy. But unless you have a box at home with all the ingredients and you're ready to cook, you don't really think about picking out the recipe like Wiener Schnitzel and doing it yourself. So that's the kind of experience you have with HelloFresh, and that's why it helps you eat better and cook better.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, if I am one of your potential customers, what do I go through until I get my, let's say a real life example of someone who wants to order food, what does he do? Right.
So one very important thing, a core of our business model, is also part of our mission, which is about food waste. So what we do is basically, you order a box until Wednesday midnight. Meaning you go on our website, you look at the recipes we have a portfolio of different boxes with different recipes. There's a whole selection. There's always new recipes, every week we have different ones. Right? We have an express box, which is more quick. You would probably, from starting to cook until you're eating, is half an hour. You have the explore box, there's more about fancy ingredients, fancy recipes, but it takes a bit more time. It's also more about learning cooking techniques, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then we have a family box, which is bigger and it's easier, and a lot of, you have to be very smart with a family box. Most kids don't like certain vegetables, so you actually take the broccoli and make a pesto out of it, rather than having full broccoli, because the kids will need it. So you go to the website, you check out the recipes throughout the different boxes we have, you enter your credit card details, your address, your order. The thing you can select basically is whether you want to have it delivered on Tuesdays or on Wednesdays. We're going to increase the number of times we deliver in the future, but since we already just started in Switzerland, we're limited to Tuesday and Wednesday. Then you hit the order button and you wait. Tuesday, typically, if you say you select you want to deliver during the day on Tuesday, but you're at work, postman will go to your house. They typically in Switzerland they get into almost every house, and they just deposit it there, and then you get back home from work. You pick it up, carry it to your apartment, and start cooking.
Very good. So tell me, like, HelloFresh is more or less new since 2016. It's here also in Switzerland represented. Tell us a little bit about the background, because there are some significant milestones that you already hit. I would say I want to mention just one, because I was a little bit embarrassed when I said like startup before, because you have over 1,000 employees in 8 different countries already. So I'm not sure you can still call that a startup, but it's definitely a startup that passed already a big growth stage in the last few years. So tell me a little bit of other things in terms of how many meals you're sending out, like in terms of funding maybe that you got already.
HelloFresh is 5 years old.
Yeah.
It started with a strong backing from Rocket Internet and a couple of other investors very early on, which allowed us to not just start in one country, which was Germany, but also just after 1 year, having achieved product market fit, figuring out the basics, how you do that. We already expanded to a couple of other countries. There was the US, Australia, UK, and the Netherlands. Netherlands is now also shipping to Belgium, hence one more country. That was 4 years ago, and only this year now was the first time that an expansion took place with further countries, with Canada and Switzerland.
Yeah.
We are here now since April in Switzerland, available in Switzerland. As you said, it's a bit hard to describe as a startup. I would say there's a couple of aspects to it. Obviously, you have culture, you have the average age of employees, which is still very startup. On the other side, you have, as you said, more than 1,000 employees worldwide, with headquarters in Berlin that focuses on a couple of things. So Berlin is very important, and I think that's a big difference. Most startups, we actually have a shared service center, a shared service setup. So all the IT is in Berlin, all that is online marketing, all that is design, all that is about photo shoots, that kind of stuff is in Berlin. And a couple of people who help coordinate between the countries, take the insights from the UK and think about our context and see if you can apply them as well, that kind of stuff. So that has been a huge plus, and that's the only way we were able to build HelloFresh Switzerland so fast.
Yeah.
Because we could basically go there and say, let's just look at Germany and the Netherlands because they're kind of similar. And we copy all we want to copy, and we change whatever we want to change.
Yeah.
Always knowing that Switzerland is a very special market. So we knew from the start we had to have an office in Switzerland with Swiss people working on it, developing the recipes locally, sourcing locally.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's a platform for us. The whole HelloFresh setup, we're very independent with what we do. We get advice, obviously. But for us, it's a great platform to start building sort of a startup within a startup.
Absolutely. So I can imagine that in HelloFresh, by the personality, the profile of this business, there are probably some funny stories you can tell us with customers. Yeah. Anything you can share with us?
Yeah, there have been a couple of interesting situations, let's say it like that. Obviously, there's a whole range of cooking skills, and it's also about learning to cook. So some people don't know how to cook at all when they order a product. So we had these really cool emails, like one guy writing to us saying, so the recipe starts with boiling water, and then you cut the vegetables. You boil the water for pasta afterwards, obviously. So he sent us an email, and actually he called, I think. He called and he said, so I put the water to boil, I cut the vegetables. But the problem was, by the time he was done cutting the vegetable, the water was all gone. So I wasn't sure what to do anymore. There was a woman, a lovely lady actually. She was very nice on the phone always. She called about 5 times during one day when the delivery happened, and she's always like, yeah, I've been at home, I really need to go shopping, I don't know what you have to do, hairdresser, whatever. I really need to leave the house, but I can't go before the box arrives. And we told her, don't worry, even if you're not home, it's going to go there. But it turned out in the end, at 6 o'clock, she called again. She was really desperate, she really needed to leave. And she said, okay, yeah, I just need to leave and it's still not here. And then he said, did you actually check if it's there or not, if it's at your door? And she went, she said, just a minute. She went out, she found the package, it was already there.
So it was there the whole day?
The whole day, and she waited until 6 until she could leave. We checked afterwards and track and trace, it arrived at 10 in the morning.
So it was there for a couple of good hours, waiting for her.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then you also have the ones that are a bit more, let's say, tricky. There was one guy who said, we have to set up every week after you cook, you can give feedback on the recipes. And one of the feedbacks was basically, I really loved the dish. But my problem was basically, the pasta was overcooked and there was far too much salt in it. So that's sort of the things that happen to you if you sell food boxes.
Tell me, one of the questions that I'm asked a lot, especially because I'm dealing with a lot of startups and they always ask me about Switzerland. Just as a last question and wrap up, what would you say is the best advice you could give for a startup that is thinking maybe A, to expand into Switzerland specifically and B, into German-speaking area?
Yeah. So I have a couple of different ones on that one. So first, you shouldn't assume that anything is similar, especially if you're coming from Germany to Switzerland. And most startups, most companies have a really hard time expanding to Switzerland from Germany. The values are very different, not only in the setup and how you put the values, but in selling arguments. If you compare Switzerland to Germany, in Germany, one of the top arguments will always be price. Mm-hmm. If you're cheaper, you're bought. In Switzerland, that's really not the case. It's all about quality. Price plays some role somewhere, but it's not a central argument. That means in terms of marketing, you cannot just go there and say, okay, we shout out our discounts, vouchers, and our special discount campaigns and limited only for this week and that kind of stuff. That won't really work in Switzerland. Swiss people need to be convinced by quality as well.
Yeah.
So in general, the advice I would give everybody about Switzerland is Swiss people are slow to try out new things, very slow, but they tend to be very loyal customers if you can win them over. But you don't win them over by making special offers. You win them over by giving them content, giving them values. So that's a lot of what we've been doing in the past. We put a lot of energy in very carefully selecting our suppliers. We want to know how the meat that we use in our recipes is produced, and we want to know where these animals lived and what kind of standards they apply. One thing that's very important is we only have bio-labeled vegetables. We recently just got the bio label ourselves so we can use it in our marketing materials as well. Just because we know two things basically. One, Swiss people are interested in that and we need to build them on content and values as much as price and basic business. Mm-hmm. Which is very nice because that's anyways values we want to push.
Yeah.
And where we also, and I think that's what's really great about HelloFresh, you find a space for a lot of young people once they finish studying to fulfill sort of their need to change something and touch something, because just intrinsically in our business model it's all about food waste. We only order after we know how much, and we only order the exact quantities you need. We only give you the exact quantity you need for the recipe. So neither when we buy nor when you have it at home, you would waste a significant amount of fresh produce compared to, if you go to the store already before you buy it, there's like 20-30% wasted. My advice would really be, don't assume that it's similar, and especially on marketing, you have to convince on deeper levels, and it takes a lot of time to convince people.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Daniel, thank you very much for giving us some insights into HelloFresh and the industry. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Startup Show. and I'm looking forward to seeing you another time with another episode very soon. Have a good day, everyone.